Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the afternoon session of our Cyber Symposium. This session is our student presentation session. Students will be presenting their dissertation research to a panel of judges who will then go off and award marks or whatever they do, and the students will be awarded prizes on the basis of that. The students who are with us represent a selection of our dissertation students from the current year. They have all been working extremely hard on their dissertation topics, and they do that with a little bit of guidance from us at the University of Gloucestershire, but naturally not very much. This is all their own work and all their own research, and I'd certainly like to congratulate them for the results that they've actually produced and for being present with us today. I would like to hand over to our judges to introduce themselves. We have a selection of judges who are listening to each of the student presentations. If we could start with Richard Holmes, and if you judges could introduce yourselves, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Julie. My name is Richard Holmes. I work for CGI and I lead our cybersecurity team in the UK. We've got a few hundred people providing a broad range of cybersecurity services. CGI, if you haven't heard of us, we're an IT services company. We've got about 6,000 people in the UK. About half our work is in the government sector, defence, central government, local government, and half our work's in the public sector, financial services, energy, utilities, telecoms, etc. We've got offices all over the UK, including Gloucester, Bristol, Birmingham, and lots of other places. And my only other comment is cybersecurity continues to be an increasingly important priority for clients across all sectors in the UK, and I'm really looking forward to the session.
Thank you, Richard. I'd now like to hand over to Buck Rogers from BAE Systems.
Hello, I'm Buck Rogers. I'm head of cybersecurity and information security for BAE Systems. So I cover the air division, which is about 20,000+ people, both here, the US, Australia, and in Saudi. And we mainly focus on the aircraft side of the business, but we also do have some things to do with warships in Australia, commercial aircraft. We have some emerging projects to do with solar and future aircraft technologies. Previously to that, I was head of cybersecurity and then head of security for the Bank of England and HSBC. And then outside of that, where this becomes more important is I provide advice and guidance to the Eastern Counties Resilience Board and to Norfolk Police and the International Monetary Fund. And I think the stuff that Rich said, the stuff you're doing here is key because we need to develop the talent pipeline. We need some different and innovative thinkers. So I look forward to this.
Thank you, Buck. Paul Crichard from BT is next. We've heard from Paul before, but Paul, if you could do a brief introduction for anybody just joining us, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Hi, Paul, you're muted.
Sorry, my headset decided it wanted to turn itself off for a minute, so my apologies. Hi, everybody. Yeah, for those who saw me earlier, obviously, I'm Paul Crichard. I'm the Chief Security Technology Strategist for BT. I've been UK government. I've been the CTO for BT Security and a bunch of other stuff, a bit like all the others. So I'm really keen to hear what's going on.
Thank you, Paul. Right, Reid Darby from Golden Valley Development. We've also heard from you this morning, but if you wouldn't mind going again, thank you.
Hi folks, I'm Reid Darby. I am the innovation lead in the Golden Valley Development here in Cheltenham. My background is in government. I'm an engineer, worked in data science, big data, cybersecurity, and a lot on innovation with startups, corporates, academia, and so on. So really looking forward to what you guys are going to say, and I'm hoping you'll be part of the industry very soon.
Thank you, Reid. Faith Bateman from Raytheon is next.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Faith Bateman, and I am the Customer Relationship Lead for the cyber account of Raytheon Technologies, which, if you've not heard of us, is a global defence and aerospace company. We have 2 centres of cyber excellence in the UK, one in Manchester and one down in Gloucester. And really, we help our customers in the national security sector. My background is in engineering, and I'm very excited to be here today because I actually did a 3-minute thesis competition during my PhD, which was in electronic and electrical engineering down at the University of Southampton. So it's interesting to be on the other side today. Good luck to you all.
Thank you, Faith. Our next judge is Asad Musa from bfbs.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Asaad Moosa. I'm a Chief Information Security Officer at bfbs. This is the British Forces, the Broadcasting Service. We provide media and broadcasting services for the military and armed forces around the world. We are headquartered in the UK, but we operate from over 40 countries worldwide. I also chair the Cybersecurity Committee in the Digital TV Group in the UK, and a Global Advisory Board member for the EC Council for Incident Handling. I did a PhD in cybersecurity back in the days, and I was a lecturer in Reading University. So I look forward to see your presentations, and the winners will spend a day with me in bfbs to watch and see the cyber warfare in action. So good luck, everyone.
Thank you, Asad. Sara-Jane Watkins from SGS College is next.
Hi Sarah, your mic's on mute.
That's okay, sorry about that. We're having technical issues here, so hopefully I'm muted. So hello everybody, I'm Sara-Jane Watkins and I'm College Principal for South Gloucestershire and Stroud College, so SGS. We own the Berkeley campus where C11 is based, so we have quite a strong relationship with the University of Gloucestershire. All of our degree programmes are through the university, and we have over 35 degree programmes currently, and we're also a general further education college with over 4,500 young people studying across our main sites. I'm also a former student at the University of Gloucestershire, so I'm really excited about seeing your presentations this afternoon. I think hearing the views, the ideas, the feedback from young people is so important. So I really wish you the best of luck this afternoon. I don't want you to be nervous. I want you to enjoy the experience because we are going to gain so much from your presentations, and I'm wishing you the very best of luck. So I can't wait for you all to start.
Thank you, Sara-Jane. Farooq Ali Jabori, I beg your pardon, from Cybercode Technologies is our last panelist.
Hello everyone, this is Farooq Ali Jabori, the founder and executive director of Cybercode Technologies, a company based in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. Our company provides cybersecurity solutions, implementation, and professional services for various clients in the Middle East. Prior to my role in Cybercode Technologies, I used to work for multinational companies in the region, the likes of Cisco, Huawei Technologies, and ZTE. I'm very glad to be here with you today and wish all the students a very successful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Farooq. Right, so that's our panelists. Now I'd like to move on to introducing each student in turn, and I would also like to say good luck, students. So the first student that I would like to introduce this afternoon is Luke Gassman. Luke is, his title is Reducing Web Latency in Cloud Operating Systems to Simplify User Transitions to the Cloud. Over to you, Luke.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all enjoying yourselves so far today. I should apologise in advance if I keep adjusting my glasses because as a Java programmer, I don't see sharp. My dissertation is on operating systems, but more distinctly, the future of cloud-based operating systems. It was based on the premise that over the past decade, we've seen more and more applications moving to the cloud. Google's gaming platform Stadia is a good example of this. However, with the benefits of shifting processing time to server hardware and architecture, we still haven't seen operating systems moving to the cloud with any significance. When investigating the reasons for this, surrounding research showed several restraints, one of which being web latency. the time for server and client to communicate with each other and retrieve data. This is where Prometheus OS comes in. I developed Prometheus OS as a web-based operating system to assist users' transitions to a cloud-based platform and explore latency reduction. This offers users the benefits of online cloud web applications such as online storage, global access, and multi-device use. It contains all the basic functionalities of an operating system, like having similar interactions to a Windows 10 homepage and reading, writing, and searching for files. It was developed using the frameworks Laravel and Framework 7 for an aesthetic yet functional approach. However, let's look at how the system explores latency. Communication occurs via two types of channels, the client and server's terminal and switching station. These classes route and prepare terminal commands to areas on the server and act similar to how a traditional terminal would interact with system data. The system also implements a relational SQL database and non-relational file database inspired by MongoDB. This tested the platform's retrieval and communication methods with the server under load and spike testing. The system also implements intelligent caching inspired by modern Markov model prefetching techniques. One of these is Prometheus Mouse, a mouse tracking software developed that uses geometric principles to predict where the user's mouse is moving and caching the application before the user's even selected it. A prediction caching system was also implemented, which uses a naive Bayes model to predict what the user wants based on the time of day and their last request. The results showed that HTML data retrieval was the largest cause of web latency. However, that relational database showed better reading times, whilst the non-relational file database performed exponentially better in synchronous writing. The smart caching system also showed a 52 to 67% improvement in web latency time, and even when compensating for ping time, it showed up to a 19% improvement. I hope you've all enjoyed listening as much as I have, developing this possible glimpse into the future of cloud-based operating systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Our next speaker is Nicholas Euliarte, and his title is The Positive Effects of Biochronous Mobile Learning Applications on the Student Population. Thank you, Nicholas.
Thanks, Julie. So my application consists of creating a mobile application for students to use within their academic learning and research. From my research, I've gathered that a lot of students use Facebook groups and other social platforms over platforms that are created such as Moodle to interact and talk to each other and progress throughout their learning. There are two main methods of learning. There is synchronous and asynchronous learning. Synchronous learning is more of your traditional approach to learning. It is how you learn in lessons and it's more structured. Asynchronous learning is more of a self-regulated approach towards learning. By blending these two into a biochronous learning approach, we can then develop a platform for any students with any preferences of their learning to then learn and progress within their academic life. The development of this application was done through React Native, which is a hybrid approach to the development of a mobile application. This is to allow students that have both iOS and Android to use and acquire both all of the elements of this application. I have developed this application using a lot of social features. So human-computer interactions were influenced the development of the application I've created. As you can see on the graph, I have had 8 participants within my study. 4 participants had the lesson and the application, and the other 4 only had the material. This was to see how both synchronous and asynchronous learning could be done and made possible through the application. As you can see on the graph, most of the students have shown an improvement before from having the test before the lesson and then after the lesson, and only 2 students have showed no progress or any decrease in their grades. Overall, this students have also provided me a lot of feedback. A lot of them said that the interlinking with different aspects for different learners has been pretty good. They've also said that they like how having a more comfortable environment, which is similar to Facebook and Instagram, was quite nice, because the way that the application is developed is kind of like Instagram, where you have posts and comments which allow for students to follow other lecturers and teachers and other students to have more of a constructive criticism and a lot more of feedback from them, alongside having a portal for learning which has their lessons and their quizzes for each lesson. This will provide a good baseline for the future of the mobile learning discussion, and I hope that this can assist in further development in mobile learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Our third student speaker is Dan Tyler, and Dan's title is Trust No One, a framework for assisting healthcare organisations in transitioning to a zero trust network architecture. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Julie. So healthcare organisations are still using the traditional perimeter model in their networks, prioritising security at the edge of the network and failing to recognise the damage that a threat originating from the inside can cause. So zero trust, a concept centered around micro-segmenting each device and application to eliminate automatic trust between hosts, can solve this problem and reduce the likelihood of events such as WannaCry occurring again in the future. So if this solution exists, why aren't healthcare organizations using it? The answer is that the current implementation methods aren't compatible with the many legacy systems and decades-old medical devices housed in hospitals. So a framework was created to allow healthcare organizations to use as much of their existing architecture as possible in a new zero trust inspired architecture. I say zero trust inspired because the framework proposes more of a hybrid architecture, with VPNs for remote access still being allowed but under strict access control and only via company-owned devices. The framework was tested on a hypothetical network created in Cisco modeling labs to ensure the validity of the proposed solutions. Because CML is unfortunately limited in its capabilities, healthcare organizations would have to run their own tests to ensure that it's compatible with their setup. So as you can see on the right, the framework is split into 5 stages, from basic security controls that we all know to defense in depth as a sort of last line of defense against insider attacks. One of the big things in this framework is not allowing devices to have internet access unless it's absolutely required. So attackers have previously used the search engine Shodan to target medical devices which were connected to the internet. The same idea applies to the east-west traffic. Devices shouldn't be talking to each other unless they absolutely have to. So while the majority of the research in this project was qualitative, micro-segmentation methods were tested for latency to ensure that the decreased network speed would not interfere with patient care. Using firewalls and firewall clusters to protect medical devices did not result in a significant increase in latency, but using proxy servers did. However, a proxy server cluster was used elsewhere in the network to provide secure internet access. My hope is that this framework would remain relevant in the future, as healthcare organizations will likely always be using outdated systems and old medical devices due to the high cost associated with them. For example, Windows 11 is coming out eventually, rumors of it coming soon. So maybe in the future, healthcare organizations might be stuck using Windows 7 or Windows 10 for a while. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dan. Now, our next speaker is John Kafka. Now, John has had problems connecting, so I'm hoping that we can hear him. John's title is Call Me Maybe, using dynamic protocol switching to mitigate DOS attacks on SIP-based VoIP systems.
By 2025, VoIP is planned to have entirely replaced the traditional public switch telephone network in an event known as the Big Switch Off. Although VoIP has many benefits over PSTN, as VoIP is an IP-based communication protocol, this means it is vulnerable to IP-based attacks such as denial of service. By completely replacing PSTN with VoIP, this means that most, if not all, voice communication networks will be vulnerable to these attacks. This dissertation has looked at the current state of defense VoIP networks have against denial of service and has proposed a framework known as the Call Me Maybe framework to protect VoIP networks. The framework consists of 2 key features. The first is a latency monitoring system to detect the presence of a DOS attack on the network. The second is the implementation of VoIP over the protocol TCP rather than UDP. When a DOS attack is detected, the VoIP phones are switched from the UDP to the TCP network with the aim to avoid the malicious traffic by affecting the VoIP calls. By using a TCP network for the VoIP traffic, a firewall that blocks UDP traffic, known as a UDP restricted stateless firewall, can be used to stop the malicious traffic. To test the framework, Cisco Packet Tracer was used as the simulation environment. A network was set up to be attacked by up to 8 devices, which carried out a UDP flooding attack against the routers in one site. The network also contained a control center, which monitored the latency and packet loss rate of the voice communications and detected the presence of a DOS attack. The results of the experiment showed that while using the Call Me Maybe framework did not completely mitigate the effect of a DOS attack, in most cases the response time was improved to a statistically significant degree. Additionally, the results showed that the framework became increasingly effective as the scale of the DOS attack increased. The packet loss rates were also measured. While these remained low for most of the experiments, when 7 and 8 DOS devices were used, the packet loss rates for the TCP phones appeared to rapidly increase. This is likely because of TCP's retransmission mechanism, which causes a chain reaction of delayed packets when one is lost. To improve the design, multiple TCP connections could have been used to distribute the voice packets. This way, if one packet is lost, only the subsequent packets in the same connection would be delayed. In conclusion, the Call Me Maybe framework was shown to provide a statistically significant improvement in the response times of the network suffering a strong DOS attack. The framework was shown to be a scalable solution for networks to defend against UDP-based attacks, and it was shown to work in conjunction with the URSF. Overall, by making use of TCP to transmit voice data, this dissertation has presented the foundations for a new method of defending against DOS attacks targeting VoIP networks. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Nice one.
Right, our next speaker then is Sukh Singh, and Sukh is going to be talking about performance evaluation of
Sorry, John,
virtual
I'm
environments.
going to send Sukh live, and then I'll.
Will, you're not on mute. So sorry, Sukh Singh, performance evaluation of virtual environments, virtual machines and containers. Over to you, Sukh.
Thank you, Julie. Nice to meet you all. Yeah, so one of the problems that we have within the software development industry is is whether the software that is developed would work on different OSs, different platforms. There's always fears of new bugs because of those issues. So my dissertation focused on exploring the concept of containerization and how it can be compared with virtual machines. So to kind of do this, what I did was I set up 2 environments on AWS. One was virtual machine and the other one was containerized, focusing on Docker. And what I did was I used Sysbench, which was a benchmarking tool, and the performance metrics that were focused on were CPU, memory, and file input and output. And basically the Sysbench tool allowed me to carry out evaluations on performance on the metrics that I mentioned. And the experiments, as we can see here on the screen, and the results indicated that the CPU speed tests, as suggested by the literature within the industry, that the Docker as a containerization method outperformed virtual machine on AWS. However, the other findings were quite interesting, such as the memory read, memory write, and file input and output, because the results indicated that a virtual machine environment outperformed a Docker environment, which is quite interesting, as I mentioned, because the industry literature suggests that because Docker is a lightweight containerization platform, it should outperform a virtual machine, which is why the results were interesting. And as we can see by the diagrams, that the results are very, very marginal, and the reason for that is because the experiments were carried out on just the environments. So the future improvements could be made in terms of a specific application, for example, or more intensive workload on each environment, which perhaps would include more accurate results. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sukh. Right, our next speaker is Jack Spaduti. Jack looked at an investigation into counter UAV systems. ability to differentiate between authorised and unauthorised UAVs. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Julie. Hello, as Julie said, my name is Jack Spaduti, and my dissertation focused on the challenges of differentiating between authorised and unauthorised UAVs, commonly known as drones. So since their introduction into the wider market, UAVs have shown huge potential in transforming many industries with their versatility and mobility. However, as with most technologies, drone use also poses an inherent risk. Their availability, affordability, and advanced features also appeal to criminals for use in illicit activities such as drug trafficking and terrorism. With this in mind, it is clear to see why there is a need for counter-UAV systems in the urban environment to protect key infrastructure and the public. Thankfully, there are systems that can effectively counter UAVs. However, my research for this dissertation found that these systems lacked an intelligent and autonomous method to differentiate between authorised and unauthorised UAVs. In other words, they either assume all UAVs detected are unauthorised and hostile, or rely on a human operator to make this decision. This need for a counter-UAV system to autonomously make this decision is important, as without it, how can a parcel delivery drone perform its services without being accidentally counted by a system that doesn't know the difference? And this is a problem my dissertation aimed to solve. To do this, I formulated the concept of analysing UAV behaviour factors to give an indication of an unfamiliar UAV's intentions. So these factors could be things such as the UAV speed. How fast is it travelling? Is it going over a predefined speed limit? The payload of a UAV. Is it carrying a weapon or is it carrying a parcel? If it is carrying a parcel, is it the size and shape we expect of the UAV? There are lots of factors, but the one I chose to implement to prove the concept was the location of a UAV in relation to a protected area. So has the UAV gone off its flight path and entered an area that it shouldn't have? So to implement this, I trained a Euro V5 object detection model to detect a UAV in a frame with 95% accuracy. I then aligned and rectified two generic webcams to create a stereo camera to estimate the distance of a UAV using disparity in a similar way that our eyes measure distance. I then added a virtual map, as you can see on the slide, to scale down the real world onto a user's screen. This allowed the user to interactively draw protected areas in blue or no-fly zones. I then used Python to implement the logic to accurately plot and track UAV movements, and if they entered a no-fly zone, it would mark them as unauthorized in red. I was able to prove that successfully that you could use UAV behavior to accurately identify an unauthorized UAV. And now this may aid in rolling out UAVs into the wider society by providing systems that can allow them to serve their purpose whilst tackling the hostile UAVs. I hope you found this interesting. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jack. Our next speaker is Bekah Bleackley. Rebecca's title is Evaluating the Effectiveness of College of Policing and NPCC Guidance Regarding Electronic Evidence Collection for Cyber Stalking.
Thank you, Julie. Hi, I'm Bekah Bleackley and my dissertation focuses on cyber stalking. For my research, I evaluated the guidance available for evidence collection in cyber stalking cases by sending out surveys to the police forces requesting their opinions on its use and effectiveness. I used these opinions to evaluate the guidance and make recommendations for improvements. The main reason for undertaking this research is because cyber stalking is a growing offence, assisted by technology through the ongoing development of mobile apps such as SnapMaps. SnapMaps was an improvement made to Snapchat, allowing you to share your location with a choice of friends. This can be used by ex and current partners or friends to stalk your location. This is like the Find My Friends app provided by Apple, which is also often used for cyber stalking. The second reason is the police guidance for cyber stalking investigations lacks any guidance on digital sources of evidence to collect, simply stating in the evidence checklist that electronic evidence may be available. Given how reliant we are on technology, it is surprising that the guidance does not incorporate this. As a result of my research, my first conclusion is that guidance on evidence collection for cyberstalking is currently satisfactory, but needs to be improved to include more pressing and current areas of concern within the field. The guidance must be constantly scrutinised and improved, as this lays the foundation for achieving prosecution for cyberstalking cases. If an officer cannot recognise potential data sources, then they are failing both the victim and their force. Example digital sources could include more depth on social media recovery, mobile data extraction, and drone data recovery, where a camera has been flown to follow the victim and mentioned in reporting of the offence. My second conclusion is that targeted continuous professional development for frontline officers will increase their awareness of the signs of cyberstalking and their knowledge of the evidence useful to prosecute such cases. Cyberstalking is such a niche field that without a regular update of the knowledge required, the behaviours and warning signs could be dismissed for other offences. The implementation of continuous professional development may reduce the likelihood of this and could provide greater reassurance to victims when first reporting the offence. A combination of both of these things, victims more reassured when reporting crime and more successful prosecutions, may also increase the likelihood of such crimes being reported in the future. One recommendation I made was the adoption of the cyberstalking handbook I produced. This educates students on the signs and behaviours of cyberstalking and will help encourage them to report this specific crime. Additionally, a section of my handbook provides new advice to victims not previously offered. This advice is tailored to help victims preserve evidence, assisting the police investigation from the outset. As you can see, the guidance covers text and phone stalking, online stalking via social media, and physical stalking. A copy of this handbook can be requested if you would like. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rebecca. Our final student is Louie Shand, and Louie's title is Generative Adversarial Networks Assisted Malware Detection. Thank you, Louie.
Thank you, Julie. Hello, I'm Louie Shand, and my research produced a new malware detection tool called Generative Adversarial Network Assisted Malware Detection System, or GMDS for short, as it's quite hard to say, and I only have 3 minutes. I think we can all agree malware is an issue. Malware attacks cost billions each year in damages, with antivirus software failing to cope. Clearly, I should have developed malware, as that's where the money's at, but it's illegal, unfortunately. Now, you may be wondering why I've chosen a spot the difference game as my slide. Other than the fact I'm a bit vain and I think I look good in a suit, it does sum up the problem of malware detection systems quite well. Also, for those wondering, I'm wearing a different shirt, and I went with the blue shirt in the end, as you can see. Now, current security mechanisms often have the image on the left, Louie 1. It'll be able to detect this piece of malware 10 times out of 10, as seen in Louie 2. This will bypass current security mechanisms as it's looking for the exact image of Louie 1 and Louie 2, therefore failing to spot the difference. GMDS solves the problem by using AI in a unique way to generate new malware samples. This is done using a generative adversarial network, or GANs for short. Now, a GAN is built up of two competing entities that are playing a game with each other. I like to call these entities Tom and Jerry, based on the well-known cartoon characters where a cat called Tom tries to catch a mouse named Jerry. I hope that's correct. It's a bit like Ant and Dec, I never know which one's which. But in this case, Tom has a piece of cheese. Jerry, on the other hand, wants to steal that piece of cheese by tricking Tom with a disguise. At first, Tom doesn't believe the disguise, so Jerry is able to stop Tom, not get the cheese. So he keeps trying and keeps producing different disguises. He successfully tricks Tom with a news disguise and gets the cheese and wins the game. I like to think in this case, Jerry wore the blue shirt to fool Tom, but during this process, Jerry produced hundreds of disguises. Now, if we could use those disguises to train Tom to spot Jerry in the blue shirt, it would prevent Jerry breaking into Tom's cheese. We can apply this to malware by turning malware into images. GMDS uses Tom and Jerry to produce a new malware image. I then use this image to assist a malware detection system by adding the new image into the malware database. It ensures that the malware detection system has a collection of unseen malware variants. Therefore, if a malware attack tries to attack the system but disguising itself, Tom will have already produced the disguise, allowing for the detection system to detect it. So in essence, we use Louie 1 to produce Louie 2 for all the subtleties of a new malware variant, to retrain a malware detection system to ensure that the system is robust and adaptable to future threats. But most importantly, it spots the difference between a malware and a malware variant. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how GMDS spots the difference to make a difference in malware detection. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Louie. That concludes our student presentations. And we're really just over to the panelists to make a decision. I'm extremely pleased that I'm not on the panel and I don't have to make this decision. I think it will be a very difficult decision for you to make. I'd like to thank you again to all our students. There's a lot of hard work that goes into providing a 3-minute pitch, and also a lot of work that goes into a dissertation. It's not even a year's amount of work, really, if you think that we start in September and it's already handed in. And although the students are in their final year of university, it's just really this year that they actually work on their dissertations. It's a great grounding for their future careers, I think. So huge thank you to the students who presented, and thank you also to our panelists. I'm extremely pleased to be able to announce the winners of the prizes that we're awarding today. Our panelists have made a very tough decision. There have been 8 prizes actually, and some very tough decisions made. So we have Amazon vouchers, we have a full day of training with Asaad, and so we have one £50 Amazon voucher, a full day of training, we have 2 £100 Amazon vouchers, and then again another 2 £50 Amazon vouchers. Thank you very much, panelists, for being so generous and for taking the time out to listen to our students. We think it's extremely important to put our students in front of industry so that they actually realise that what they're doing for their dissertations and what they've learnt in the past 3 years at university is valid. A lot of our students have got very bright futures in front of them. So without further ado, I would like to announce our winners, although really there are no losers, but here you go. So the first one is Luke Gassman. Luke's title was Reducing Web Latency in Cloud Operating Systems to Simplify User Transitions to the Cloud. And Luke is winning the I think he's winning the Amazon vouchers. It's a bit difficult to decide who's doing what. Oh no, I beg your pardon. So the £50 Amazon vouchers go to Jack Spaduti and Bekah Bleackley. The full day's training for 2 students, I think, was between Dan, John and Louie. Farook has very kindly offered 2 Amazon vouchers, and that will be going to Luke and Louie. And as far as I can make out from the bits of paper that I've got in front of me, Bob Cliff very kindly from Technical Skills actually offered 2 £50 Amazon vouchers, one of which will go to Sukh and the other one to Nicholas. So I would like to thank our judges, Sara-Jane for the Amazon vouchers, Asaad Moosa for the full day training with him, and Bob Cliff also for Amazon vouchers. And I would like to thank our students for participating, and really it's participating rather than the winning that's important. It's getting your name out there, students.